Good evening. My name is Iris Morales, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the M&N El Barrio Firehouse Community Media Center. For those of you that may be new to the Firehouse, we are a place of education and learning, an intergenerational space dedicated to the use of media to bring attention and awareness to the important social, political, and cultural issues of our times. Tonight's program about Stop and Frisk, policing in New York City, is a collaboration of the M&N Firehouse, the M&N Youth Channel, the Center for Constitutional Rights, and People's Justice for Community Control and Police Accountability. Now let us be clear. Repressive policing is nothing new in low-income communities and communities of color. It's nothing new. Many generations have fought against police abuse, police brutality, and police killings of innocent people. Many generations. Stop and Frisk is the 21st century version. Tonight, we will deepen our understanding about Stop and Frisk and about how people are fighting back. Our main purpose is to keep public attention on Stop and Frisk. Let's keep the attention on Stop and Frisk and similar police policies in order that we may encourage everyone that we speak to, that we know, to organize against these policies. We want people to organize against these policies.
Good evening. My name is Age Patterson. I'm the Coalition Coordinator for the Community Coalition People's Justice for Community Control and Police Accountability. And I'm joined here tonight, and I'm honored to be here with Nicholas Pert, who is a member of Brotherhood Sister Soul, a very acclaimed youth organization based here in Harlem, and as well as one of the most integral witnesses and plaintiffs in the Floyd versus New York federal class action lawsuit. So thank you very much for joining me here today, Nicholas.
Thank you.
So we're here today to talk about the Floyd case and how you became involved in that, and your experience with NYPD and Stop and Frisk in general. And so I know it's got to be, with as strong of an organization as the NYPD is, and as how much that backing they have from Mayor Bloomberg, Commissioner Kelly, and the powers that be in general, it's got to be a very scary feeling, or I would imagine it would be a very scary feeling to stand up against the NYPD in a way that puts yourself out there so much as to be a plaintiff in a case like this. And so I wanted to know what made you decide to be a plaintiff in this Floyd versus New York lawsuit, and what was the process for you like going through deciding whether or not you were going to do that?
I felt that I had a moral obligation to be a part of this case. From my experiences being stopped and frisked, I have been stopped and frisked for, just simply going to the store, going to the gym. And, these are very alarming stops, and growing up, we should definitely, as a community, beyond, the NYPD, we should definitely consider the psychological consequences, as a form of conditioning, of young people, when I think it's alarming when you have, adolescents who have been stopped and frisked, and the only conclusion that they can come up with is that I was hanging out, laid outside. I think that's very alarming. And another thing is, the level of uncertainty that, women raised in Black and brown boys have in the city, the level of uncertainty is extremely unsettling. And, that shouldn't exist, especially from law enforcement. Yeah. So that's why I decided to become a part of this case.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
And I noticed you said it was really unsettling and alarming for you, and I'm sure for many people that it's happening to. On the flip side of that, I recently heard Commissioner Ray Kelly say in an interview that if African Americans are just slightly above 50% of stop and frisk, then they're actually being understopped. According to Kelly's rationale right there, which is, that's even possibly more alarming to me than each individual stop, that the head of the police department is thinking that African Americans are actually being stopped less than they should be, which is obviously completely wrong.
Yeah.
But you know, and while we've said also that there was close to 700,000 stops in 2011 and almost 600,000 last year in 2012, you know, meaning it's happening to so many people in our communities of color and other marginalized communities. But there's also, I'm sure, a lot of people out there who have not had the experience of being stopped and frisked yet. And so I was wondering if you could share with our audience right now what the experience of being stopped and frisked is like and what happened to you in that circumstance.
The experience of being stopped and frisked is definitely upsetting. You know, you feel criminalized, and you know, this is not why, you know, people don't pay taxes to, you know, see their taxes come in, stop and frisk them for going to Starbucks. You know, it's definitely not the best feeling. And one of the things that I've noticed, you know, after I wrote an article in the New York Times about it, is how many people didn't know that, you know, this happened, that this is a real issue. You know, every summer, you know, you see, you know, individuals being stopped and frisked. In Harlem, I'm living in a well-gentrified area, and, you know, there are white males who dress the same way I do, who go do the same things I do, and, you know, I've never seen them stopped and frisked, you know. So, you know, it's definitely, you know, we definitely need change.
No doubt. How did the police speak to you when they stopped you? Was it just a simple stop, or how did they treat you as a person when that happened to you?
Well, it's definitely not a comfortable situation to be in. You know, having the police go through your wallet, having the police, you know, take a phone away from you. You know, it's a lot of these stops are very hostile and very dangerous, and it further, you know, wedges a gap between the community and the police. You know, it's inevitable. You know, you cannot, you know, I think, you know, the NYPD has to do a better job of policing these areas. And, you know, when you police areas, you have to do it with respect. You know, it's, to be stopped and frisked is, you know, is not a good feeling at all. Like I said, you know, it's definitely a form of conditioning, you know, because after you're stopped a couple times, you start to subconsciously think that this is a normal thing. And it's not for other people in the city.
No doubt. It's definitely an alarming situation when our young people and our peoples in general are starting to act like these type of police state measures are just normal parts of our lives when they really shouldn't be. So thank you very much for sharing that.
You're watching Community Dialogue on Stop and Frisk.
Another experience that you've had that many, many more people have not had is being in the circumstance of testifying as a plaintiff in such a highly recognizable and infamous case such as Floyd versus the city of New York. You know, very few of us have been in a courtroom in that circumstance, let alone being a federal class action lawsuit against the city of New York. So could you explain to us a little bit about your experience of in the courtroom and testifying yourself? How was that for you?
Testifying in federal court, it was definitely nerve-wracking. You know, I had never testified before, and it was an interesting process. It was full of emotion. It was definitely tense in the courtroom. But I felt that, I had a lot of support. I've been hearing like the courtrooms are overflowing, and they had like 2 courtrooms. So, just knowing that, and knowing, it's beyond me. It's not just about my stop and frisk, but what happens to hundreds of thousands of people in that I'm testifying on the behalf of. So that calmed my nerves a bit, and I think Judge Cheryl Shitterland, she was very receptive to our stories, along with Devin and Floyd as well, and the other plaintiffs that testified. She was very receptive.
Great, great. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine being in that position myself, so thank you very much for being brave enough, and you as well as the other plaintiffs for going up and really representing for all of New York City in the way that y'all did. So, it's very admirable that y'all were able to go up and do that. Another really beautiful thing that you're involved in is Brotherhood Sister Soul. And the work that y'all do on the floor, like I was telling you earlier, I've used Brotherhood Sister Soul's curriculum in my work with young people as well, and I've always found the organization to be really beautiful. And there's always not only the organization, but the people who work there all seem to be really socially conscious and doing community work inside and outside of RoSis. And so I was wondering, just in your own personal life, or either with Brotherhood Sister Soul or within your own life, how else have you been organizing around stop and frisk policies?
Well, the Brotherhood Sister Soul, I'm currently working there now. I'm an alumni of the organization. And before, the whole Floyd case, and, when, growing up and being part of the Rites of Passage program of the Brotherhood Sister Soul, we read articles, talking about the mass incarceration of, black men, and, and we also had workshops done with our chapter leaders about, what black men are up against. And also I had my mom as well, to give perspective on things. So I had a well-rounded vision of, what I was up against. So, we continue to do that at the Brotherhood Sister Soul as I work there. And this is definitely brought to their attention, the young people that we work with, and even beyond our community, in RoSis community. We organize and we give teachers about it. So, it works out pretty well.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Spreading information is one of the most important things we can do, right? Something that is constantly done with the media is oftentimes our communities are kept, almost ignorant of things that are going on in the world, and there's nothing we can do about it if we don't know about it, right? So sharing that information with our young people and then giving them a path to be able to fight back against it is remarkable. And so really love what RoSis and you are doing there.
Yeah. And another thing, I think, like when you're, working with young people, I think the best way to counter whatever they're up against is to empower them, to make them not feel depressed about, what's happening in their community, but give them tools to, for them to save themselves, and that's what we try to do at the Brotherhood Sister Soul.
No doubt. Well, y'all are doing a great job of that.
Thank you.
So now that the case is done and we're just waiting for the judge's verdict and for the answers for what we're going to do about stop and frisk, and I have all the faith in the world that we are going to win this case. And so once this case wins and we have an outcome, what do you think the impact of the outcome of this case will be for our communities and for highly affected low-income communities of color?
The impact, I think the impact has already begun. The fact that it has been broadcasted, stop and frisk has been broadcasted. It's no longer something that, people in low income areas know about. It's beyond, our community. So, just that alone, planting a seed that, this happens in the community and police brutality does happen to innocent people. Illegal stop and frisk, it doesn't, it doesn't stop crime. And so I think, that impact alone is, definitely plants the seed to a bigger solution. to it, and we just have to wait to see, the final ruling of things.
No doubt. And so the seed that's been planted already, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to sprout into a massive tree of some sort. And what is that tree going to look like? What is the actual change that we need to see that's going to provide our communities what we need from our police and in general?
The actual change, I think we need a better relationship with them. I think partnering with a school or a church isn't enough. And I feel that, sometimes, the NYPD does that to, hush individuals up, that, working with a school or a church, those are not the people that you're typically targeting. You have to build a better relationship with, with adolescents, people, because, the perception of the NYPD is hideous, to young people. So we definitely have to do a better job with that, and when they start to soften their image, I think we'll be in a good going in a good direction.
No doubt. No doubt. So what I think, in your vision, in the future, when we do get these victories and we get the changes that we want, what will that relationship between police and the community look like to you?
We'll just have to see.
No doubt.
We just have to take it one step at a time and see how that looks.
Right.
Yeah.
First, let's just try to get them off our backs. Let's do that. We can
Yeah.
breathe a little bit, and
Yeah.
then we'll figure out where we're going from there.
See where we go.
I hear that. It's hard to think past that moment. We're just trying to keep our heads above water right now. Well, thank you very much, Nicholas Pert.
Thank you,
We really appreciate the conversation. And for everybody out there, I encourage everybody to look more into this case, look more into Stop and Frisk, but not only Stop and Frisk, look into the Community Safeties Act, police reform laws that are being passed through City Council right now, and look into racial profiling, other ways that other communities around the nation are dealing with these issues, and hopefully we can start to see some more of these changes.
Our youth are being snatched up. They're being gunned down by the police. They're being trapped and sent to prisons for lifetimes. Over 80,000 people are in solitary confinement, treated worse than animals. This is a criminal system. It was founded on slavery. You had 100 years of Jim Crow terror, and now you have the new Jim Crow, and it's not going to end until we end this system. This is why we're talking about real revolution. We're out here to fight for justice for Trayvon Martin, but we're also here because 30 years from now, 20 years from now, we don't want to be looking at this again.
You're watching Community Dialogue on Stop and Frisk.
Clear up the closing doors, please.
Hey, what's up? Good, how are you?
All right with school, you know.
All right. Where you been? I haven't seen you in a while.
Basically a slave to work and school right now. Studying, finals.
If I don't hear from you, I'm gonna have to stalk you.
Go ahead.
I'll bang on your door like Malik! You don't want that, because I'm a G. I'm just joking. I gotta go, but I'll definitely stay in touch. And if I don't hear from you, I'm gonna stalk you. Just a warning.
Oh, yeah, my face. Stop, block. No, he stopped.
All right, bye. See you.
Hey, what are you doing here?
I live here?
Let me see some ID.
Ooh, I don't have ID on me.
What's your name?
Police are allowed to approach you at any time, but you don't have to answer their questions.
Malik.
Your last name, kid.
Jackson.
What is that, some kind of a joke? It took me a while to think of that one.
I'm not lying.
The police will probably ask for ID, but they can only stop you if they have reasonable suspicion that you are committing a crime.
How old are you?
18.
Get up against the wall.
Oh, what for?
Relax, man. Shut up. What did I do?
You do not have to consent to a search. Calmly and assertively say, I do not consent to this search.
Shut up and relax right now. Shut up and relax. Take whatever we want. You hear me? Come on, man. Relax. Shut up, kid.
Yeah, description. Look me, man.
Relax, kid.
Come on.
Relax, kid.
Easy guy.
Yeah.
Come from school. I didn't do nothing, man. Get off me, man.
Hey,
Ah.
Malik, what's going on? What are you
Take
doing?
a police
He hasn't
investigation
done
right now. I'm
anything.
gonna need you to go right now.
He lives here. He lives on the 20th.
I live
I
here.
arrest you too, man.
What?
Get out of here.
Okay.
What are you doing?
You have the right to observe and document police activity as long as you stay at a reasonable distance from the cops.
Man, put that away. I'm not gonna tell you again. Put that away right now.
Some dirty cops, man.
I will arrest you too.
Arrest me for what?
I will arrest
Nothing?
you too.
Just
Get out of
because
here, man.
you're
You are interfering with an investigation.
Oh,
If you don't
really?
put that.
Let me.
Get off me, man.
Relax, kid. Come on, put your hand. Where do you think you go?
Oh. Get off, man.
In New York, Malik's story is experienced by young people of color on a daily basis. The time is now. We need to know our rights and take action.